So we are still talking about things that affect your weight that have nothing to do with calories in, calories out, because I am sick to death of seeing these judgmental posts by personal trainers where a woman's weight is all that really matters when it comes to health and wellness. And so this month we're talking about this to disprove the notion that you can't be overweight and healthy, and also to sort of just start talking about the complexity of someone's weight, many factors of which have nothing to do with how much food they eat, how much energy they output. And today we're going to talk genetics, your in utero experience, and your early habits during childhood, and how they affect your adult weight forever. None of which, by the way, are anybody's fault, okay? And none of which the individual themselves has any control over whatsoever. So our genes are not limited to inherited physical characteristics, which I think we all know. They also help determine how our bodies process and store nutrition. So genes are segments of DNA, and some of them have an influence on metabolism, which determines how efficiently we convert food to energy. As such, some people have genetic variations that mean they'll have a slower metabolism and a greater propensity to store fat, while others will have genetic advantages that help them maintain a healthy weight despite their diet or lifestyle. So what this means is two different people who eat the exact same diet and exercise the exact same way will still have completely different bodies, okay? They'll have a different shape, a different size. A person's in utero experience will also affect their adult body weight. Pregnant women respond to stress in the same way as any other person, but the impacts extend towards her unborn baby. So the environment that she's living in informs the genetic expression of the baby developing inside her. So infants born to mothers who experience trauma are more likely to have lower birth weights as well as an altered gut microbiome, both of which are tied to an increased risk of fetal mortality, slowed cognitive development, and a higher risk of developing chronic diseases, including obesity. Sustained maternal stress will also affect the genes in the fetus, which are switched on and off, so altering gene expression, and sometimes passing these expressions down through generations, okay, through generations. You know, our grandparents all lived through the war. So what happened, or a war of some description, so how that war impacted them personally will have affected how our parents grew in utero and will then affect us in turn. It's called intergenerational trauma. So say our mother or grandmother was a victim of domestic violence or a refugee or sustained some other kind of trauma, it can impact our weight, not just by making us overweight, but also by making us underweight and giving us a propensity towards anxiety, for example. So that impact happens despite how well we eat and how healthy we are and how often we exercise. So finally, the habits of your family. So negative experiences when you're a young child will impact your weight. The influence of what's called cumulative misfortune, so negative childhood experiences. It can be mediated by socioeconomic status, depressive symptoms, and physical activity. So these ones are a little more controllable. But if your adult is active, avoids depression, and earns a livable wage, they're less likely to develop obesity, even with the same negative experiences or early childhood habits of another person. But if that person is still living in poverty or is depressed or is not active, they will have a higher chance of obesity. So again, none of those things that anyone has any control over. So both nutrient deficiency and excess in early life can cause epigenetic changes, which is changes to your genes by the environment that have effects that can last a lifetime, which include weight. Okay, it includes weight. So since we have no control over our genetics, our in utero experience, and our early childhood, it's unfair to label people who are genetically wired to sustain a heavier weight as lazy, not wanting it enough, not trying hard enough, unhealthy, because they can be healthy and still overweight. Messages like we've all got the same 24 hours, or a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips, or you've got to want it bad enough, they're unhelpful, they're ignorant, they're inaccurate for many of these populations. So they add to the load of shame that many of these people carry about their weight, which has its own consequences for that individual's ability to lose it. So let's stop, shall we? Please stop. If this has brought up any questions, direct message me. I'll answer them this time next week.